Fine, how you doing? I don't know, you're doing well, thanks.
It's like deja vu all over again, budget season.
Yeah, I have a different, perspective on it this year.
I tend to be mean, you sit there, how are you?
All right. I need to sign this.
Forgot about that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, I'm waiting for my older house, so you were, yes, and I didn't, it was really.
Right.
What happened here? I didn't push that. Because it's my time, and then I forgot. Yes. I do. Yeah, I can, you may need to send me a note for her.
Yeah.
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 Right. All right, start. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jen Lawrence, and I'm the Vice Chair of the South Burlington School Board. I am serving as the acting chair this evening in Chairman Seamus Abshir's absence. I call this Community Forum of the South Burlington School Board to order at 6:01 p.m. on Monday, November the 10th, 2025. For those who are able and willing, please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do you have any announcements? Board? No? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as requested or as presented?
I move.
Second. Okay, so it has been moved by Laura and seconded by Michelle to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Nope. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. All right, the motion carries and the agenda is approved. Okay, so we are now going to move to comments from the public. This is an opportunity for community members to address the board on any topic, whether it or not it is on tonight's agenda. Please state your name for the record. You will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The board will listen to all comments, but will not respond directly to items that are not slated for discussion as part of the community forum. Because we also do have a community forum. And right after we take public comments, we're actually going to rearrange some of our seating here and get us back into the circle that we did, which I think makes it a little bit more communal and open for discussion. So with that, are there any public comments? Yes. Please come up.
My name is Sriram Srinivasan. I go by Srini, SRINI. I had exchanged emails with school board chair, finance director, and Dr. Joe Clark. I'm not sure how the community forum is gonna go, but I just wanna highlight two topics that I wanna bring to your attention. One is very simple. As you think about the next year's budget, it'll be good if you renew the practice of publishing this staff table summary in your budget books going forward. This is not in place in fiscal year 25 and 26. It goes a long way in educating the community on what's happening with the staff. So just a suggestion going forward. Okay. Hope all of you are familiar with this table.
Can I have it? Or do
Yeah,
you
sure.
have it?
It's your copy.
Thank you.
This is from fiscal year 24.
Yeah.
The second thing that I want to highlight, if I run out of time, I'll come back, is I looked at historically, non-personal expenses. What I mean by that is non-personal expenses exclude salary and full benefits. And if you look at South Burlington from 2020 to 2025, personal costs grew by 6% annual growth. Non-personal costs grew by 8% annual growth. If you look at fiscal year 26, non-personal costs jumped by 29%. An approximate total of $4 million. Just to put this in perspective, this $4 million increase over 1 year compares to $4.4 million for the same category to the 5-year period prior. So something is different. I would just characterize it that way. And let me just highlight a few things here. It comes from, these increases come from purchase, professional and technical services. In my email, I have listed the cost centers. That goes up by about 1.35 million. Other purchase services goes up by 1.37 million. Debt services and miscellaneous expenditures goes up by 2.1 million. Really interesting thing in this category. Usually miscellaneous expenditures are like $50,000, $100,000 if you look at a historical basis. It goes up by over $2 million. So I'm not sure how you put $2 million in miscellaneous bucket without addressing what the specific increases are. So in the interest of time, I'll just highlight a few questions here, and I'm happy to leave this, share the email with other
We are
people.
at time now.
Okay,
Do you, yeah,
Okay.
you'll be able to speak again.
all right.
Yeah, part of the community forum. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you leave that? If there's any material you'd like us to leave, unless you want to use it for later.
Yeah.
I'll use it for later. Like I said, the email with the full description of the summary has been sent to the chair, the finance director, and Dr. Joe Blumen. Okay,
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Yes.
Hello, I'm Tim Jarvis, resident of South Burlington. I can answer his question very easily. The debt and miscellaneous services line item for fiscal year 26 contains a significant amount of money as a contingency for the negotiation of the union contracts. That's where you find it in the budget. You don't find it in the personnel line. So that's why there's such a significant need in that particular line item. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Anyone online? Two online? We read who's on.
I can unmute that, yeah, you tell me which one I should unmute.
Okay, we can just leave here. There's two that have, Shannon, Guile, her hand is up right up at the top. She's still there.
Okay, that's her down, I'll do. Let Jeff,
Perfect.
I just wasn't sure if this is the best time to talk. I'm kind of unsure of whether it would fit into the community forum or public comment period. So, it's a teacher comment, like it's a teacher comment related to the budget set rate. Do you have an idea of where that should?
You could talk about anything right now.
Yeah.
And you could also, I'll come back and speak during the public forum part if you don't finish it right now, or it's.
Okay,
up to you.
I'll do this little speech that I have. It is about the budget set rate though, and I follow my own school district to some degree, so I realize this is also like a tender thing for everybody. And I'm sorry my camera isn't on. I don't know why it isn't. I guess I don't know how to change that setting here. But I'm speaking tonight as a school librarian who works at Orchard School. Orchard's the largest elementary school in the district with 23, previously 24 classrooms. As our school has grown and grown, many of my colleagues started when it was back at 18 classrooms. The student body has expanded, but our specials team, which is made up of PE and art and music and library, after cuts eliminated 2 others, has not expanded, leaving us to do whatever we can to fit seeing all the classes we can within 1 week. Unlike the other specials, the librarian role requires so much more labor with the constant turnaround of books and the constant flow of foot traffic, student needs, and teacher needs, that it doesn't leave me with a lot of time in the week to do that. South Burlington schools have seen cuts on cuts, both with services available to students related to the library, as well as the kind of education they receive. And that's diminished related to those specials cuts I mentioned before. Prior to my starting here, there was digital technology, there was health education, but both of those jobs were cut. And as a result, librarians have taken on the curriculum that involves both digital technology and health education. And it's just been kind of squished into the schedule, and library is now part of the special schedule, which means as a librarian, I'm teaching all day long, but I'm not able to serve some of the roles of a librarian, which includes customer service, doing like library operations, and being on a uniform schedule like this means I can't do advisory work with students. I can't co-teach. I can't do the purchasing, can't do the curricular parts of my job, operational parts. Luckily, the library media technicians in every single one of our schools have historically handled a lot of the customer service flow, student interface, teacher needs, and part of the management duties. Unfortunately, last year, the library media technician was cut at my school. And this year, instead of having a full-time library media technician, I have 17 hours a week with one. Just so you know, the flow of 18,000 books in a year means 8 hours a day is absolutely, or 8 hours a week is needed just to put books back on the shelves at a school of this size. And the cuts have left a result of students not having access to the library throughout the day, teachers not getting even, okay, that's all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. We could hear from you later on too, Jess, if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
Happy.
Right.
Do we have any other hands up? I do not see them.
Shannon's back.
Oh, there's Shannon. There's Shannon.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now we can.
Excellent, thank you. My name is Shannon Guile, and I'm actually the president of the Vermont School Library Association. I'm asking that when you're considering next year's budget, that we as an organization would like to advocate for strong, robust school libraries that benefit all students, teachers, and the greater school community. Currently, the elementary school is run with full class schedules, as you just heard from our friend Jess, with little to no time dedicated to the tasks necessary to run a busy, vibrant school library, such as shelving books, purchasing and processing new books, connecting students with books, and collaborating with teachers. With the cutting of library technician positions, the school librarian workload has become unsustainable. Often volunteers are used as a substitute to accomplish essential library tasks, but there's no substitute for a lack of expertise. If we want our libraries to be flexible, accessible spaces, librarians need support of library technicians to meet these goals. The education quality standards state that the services of a certified library media specialist shall be made available to students and staff. Schools with over 300 students shall have at least one full-time library media specialist and sufficient staff to implement a program that supports literacy, information, and technology standards. Please consider making full-time library technicians a priority in next year's budget to best serve the students and teachers and meet our state's education standards. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Do you have any other comments online? Any other hands up? Not see them? Okay, so thank you to everyone who shared comments this evening. Your input is very appreciated. And now, without further ado, I think it would be great for those that are in the room, bravo to people that showed up and braved the inclement weather. If we can kind of squeeze folks together in a circle similar to what we did before, and we'll open up the floor for our community forum. Good. Hey, you guys are just bringing like these tables around? Yeah. Good.
Yeah, you're thinking of like the U, because then we could put the camera like.
How we did it before?
I think so, but I don't remember exactly, but I just wanted to make sure the camera. was-
Yeah, I guess.
Everyone, but it doesn't have to do. Can be able to do it.
Is that part of this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So I'll just try just that.
Thank you.
You know what?
Well, we're trying to, I don't know.
Shares.
Jen, what do you want to do? What do you have in mind here?
What's that?
What would you like? It's a circle of trust?
Yeah, just there. Perfect. Pull folks in. Yeah, fantastic. And then we'll just bring others in so that we can have it be a little more inclusive.
I don't think so. I think we can. Emily, oh, you. That will help. Like, well, there's just one share.
Yes.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Okay, doing the best we can.
That's good. Yeah, we've got a big group, but that's good. And then, yeah, let's just, yeah. I can come around here. There you go. Well, I consider it every year.
Are you staying here? Okay.
Does that work?
So.
That work?
Yeah.
Work.
Close.
Everybody have a spot? There's another seat over here at this table. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I think the owl camera froze. And so if you're using it for audio, it's not working. I still can't hear anything. It might just be me. Joe, would you nod your head if you can hear me in the room? Because I can see Joe in my little screen here. Oh, there's Jen. Jen, can you hear me? Ah, okay. Thank you, Ken. I think there must have just been a technical hiccup with the Alcam. But that means that that nobody can hear what the school board's saying. Because the Alcam is the one that has the microphone on it.
There, we try that again, yeah.
Seamus,
There we go.
can you hear us?
Now I can hear you. The Al camera is back online. There's no video yet, but there is audio.
Okay. Yeah, we moved the owl cam so that it's not spinning. So for the board members, if we could turn on our cameras, so that way it can focus more out and not be spinning.
Cool.
Laura disappeared into the audience.
I can hear and see you.
Okay. All right. Did you have a comment other than that, Seamus? Anything you wanted to say?
Nope, just that.
So just real quick, if I may, before we get to the discussion regarding the budget, I did want to just share. We spoke about this very briefly last week during our meeting. And so can you all see my screen? You all see this?
Yes.
So I just wanted to share with folks, this is the status of the permanent superintendent search. And kind of what our overall schedule looks like here. So we signed our contract. You can see here the board members that are part of that are Seamus, Laura, and myself. And we signed the contract on October 19th. This shows you here that we paid $12,000 to work with the VSBA on that search. Last week on November the 3rd, there were, the job posting went out on several national platforms, and that was led by the board and human resources. And that posting will be open from November the 3rd until December the 1st. And we feel like this is a great time of the year to be doing this because this is an opportunity. A lot of people are looking at, superintendents may be looking at their next steps, or administrator professionals may be looking for their next steps. And so timing wise, this is a good time to do it in the year. And then we informed the community of the composition of our search committee last week at our board meeting on November 5th. We had a media release that went out on November 6th. It'll probably show up in the papers this week. We will be having input sessions where we're talking with administrators, central office, faculty, and staff. That'll largely be led by Daisy, our human resources, and the VSBA. And that will be happening November 3rd through the 14th of November. And then we will be rolling out in a permanent superintendent survey. It'll be slightly different questions than what we had before with the interim. And that will be going out hopefully tomorrow, so November 11th. And then we'll be soliciting feedback from the community from November 11th through December 3rd. And then we have our search committee. Our first meeting will be on November the 17th. Our second meeting will be on November 17th, December 4th. The first round of candidate interviews, we hope to have completed by Friday, December the 11th. The second round of candidate interviews and school tours will happen by December the 15th. And then the board will complete their reviews. And we will be providing an announcement to the community by December the 17th. And then the permanent position begins way over here on July the 1st. So just wanted to share that with everyone so you can see what the timing is and the process that we're trying to follow there. And you have any questions? Maybe you have any questions on it? Yes.
I have a question. The input sessions for the staff and faculties, is that during the school day or after, or what's the accessibility?
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine it's probably both. Daisy, can you speak to that?
I know we've had the central office meeting and the administrators. I don't participate in those on my own. That's fine.
Okay.
But I don't know when she had scheduled to do that.
Yeah, I will find out. I will find out. Did you have a particular comment
Oh,
regarding it?
No, I just was, if I guess if you want, reliable and active participation, I would just think about when that is.
Yep.
And, make it at a time that works maybe for teachers and faculty and staff. I know that's difficult and you probably don't have ways to maybe, cover classrooms. It's probably not an easy feat, but
Right.
to ask people to stay maybe after a long day and then, just I don't know, I guess to be mindful of that.
Right.
If we want valuable input and from a large number of people, not just the small amount of teachers who probably always give input and put that extra,
Mhm.
you know, foot forward.
We're gonna do surveys, right?
Yeah, there's also
Yeah.
surveys.
Okay.
But yeah, so we're trying to do a multi-pronged approach, but that's really good feedback. And when I talk with Elaine, we'll bring that up.
Cause I know at Essex, I wasn't able to participate in anything for the superintendent, but I could do
Yeah. like
the
teachers
online, the
accept-
surveys, which, you know, it's not ideal, but I did feel like I had some input, so I know it is hard to do that.
Very good. All right,
There's Mr.
so,
Tim has his hand up.
yes,
I don't wanna blow this point out of proportion, I'll preface my comment, but assuming that there's some kind of information pack perhaps that goes out about the district for the people who are applying for out of state. Are we making any reference at all to what's happening at Act 73 and the district task force about what may happen to this position in the not so distant future? Or are we just leaving it up to them to do their own research?
that's a really good point. And you know, there was a packet that went out, the information packet that was completed, and I don't believe there was anything in there in regard to Act 73. No. So I do think there does need to be some due diligence on behalf of people that would be applying and to have a handle on that.
Yeah, I was just
And-
wondering.
Elaine, our VSBA consultant, does speak with all of the viable candidates and fills them in on details like that.
Thank you.
There is a hand up online, by the way.
That's Elizabeth.
Oops. do that. Okay.
Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, thank you. I had a question at the last meeting, and I think this is the right time to ask it. It in past processes, and I don't know what Elaine does in particular, but kind of at that second round of interviews in mid-December, there are often a community forum offered where the community can, and staff for that matter, based on availability, can meet like the top 2 or 3 candidates. And again, feedback might be solicited on those meetings, but it, you know, the decision-making crew is as you've outlined it. I just wondered if that was considered at all in the process.
Yeah, really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I would anticipate that that will happen. So probably on the 15th, when we do that second round of candidate interviews and the school tours. If you recall, when we did our interim superintendent search, we did have a community forum at that time. So I did not put that on this calendar, but that is a good point, Elizabeth. I will add that in because I anticipate that would happen again, and it would be on around December 15th.
Thank you.
So mark your calendars.
I have one more question.
Yes.
Did the VSBA suggest a minimum number of candidates that would be of like an ideal search? You know, like, I mean, you don't wanna have only 2 candidates apply and then, you know, move forward with with the whole process. You know, is there, you know, what is deemed a valid, reliable search, you know, to say we collected a number of candidates that we feel is representative of, you know, superintendents nationwide, that would give us a decent pool to, you know, take from.
They didn't say specifically that, I don't recall
No,
specifically a
didn't say.
number, but the net is cast pretty wide. And it's on multiple platforms nationally, and we also had discussed how it is also being advertised. So instead of just, you know, hoping that we're gonna pull information by posting it on different platforms, that there's also going to be a bit of a kind of a push-pull, that you're also sending emails to entities as well. And Elaine had spoken a bit about that the other day. I think our human resources director also spoke about that the other day to look at how this position is being advertised. I will say that when we did our interim search, we had a pretty solid number of candidates that did apply. Which I thought was very promising, and I would anticipate that we would have at least an equal number to, if not more, than during that search back in August and September. I can't recall exactly, was it
I think it was
seven?
seven,
It was 7 candidates,
so that's pretty good for interim.
and then
Sure.
and then we interviewed, I think we interviewed 4, I think, was it 4 or 5? And then narrowed it down to 2 that made it to the final round. That we then
Yeah,
toured.
and I think generally what, I know at Essex, yeah, you get down to 3 candidates and then that's when the community gets involved. So we do that,
Yes, yes,
except
We
days.
should be about 5 applicants.
all 5. Okay.
There you go.
That's not bad, and it's been
Right.
a week, So that's
Great.
not so
I
bad,
have a good answer.
okay. Okey dokey, all right, so, with that, are there any other questions or comments or related to that? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to the 26-27 budget. And I would like to turn the floor over to Dr. Joe Clark and Jean Marie. It should be down on the bottom, a green arrow. It's not flashing though, so it'd be hard to. I use Teams, so I can never find it on Zoom.
All right, so, I'm only gonna take 10 or 15 minutes to go, through this, and, Jean Marie will help as necessary, and, just to remind people where we are in the process, right? This is the first step of the process. This, while I greatly appreciate all the feedback from community members who will have spoken tonight, will speak tonight, who've been emailing me, all with certain, things that they find really valuable, as part of a school district. Tonight is really about the board setting the total amount. It is not about, selecting positions or programs or any of those things. The board sets the total amount that they are going to budget. And then after we have that, we go through a process where we, divide that amount up, based on a variety of factors to allocate money to each building and department. And then the building leaders and the department leaders make their decisions about how that money is going to be spent with certain parameters. Of course, I'm making it much more simple than it is, but that's basically what the process is. So what we're hoping for tonight is that the board will set the total budget amount so we can start that next round of work. And so as we go through this, the board at I don't remember the meeting, it was a few meetings ago, asked Jean Marie and her staff to come up with 4 different scenarios. One scenario was let's maintain everything as it currently is. So in other words, what would it cost if we were not to make any reductions? We were going to keep everything in place. The second, well, I'm not going to go in order here. Option 4 was the opposite of that. Let's pretend that we are not increasing anything to our budget. So we're going to take whatever we had for fiscal year 26, and we're going to do the same thing for fiscal year 27. And then there were 2 in the middle. One in the middle was based on inflation. If we only increased our budget amount by inflation 3.4%, what would that look like? And then we threw in another scenario, which was let's pretend, or let's look at an amount between 0 increase and maintaining the current status quo as it is. we fully anticipated when we made that decision that that number would be somewhere above inflation, but below the full complement. Turns out it wasn't. It turns out when we did this, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, it was actually less than inflation, that midpoint. I saw that as good news. I saw that as we were doing the scenarios, that I think there's a really good possibility for a reasonable solution that's going to keep our kids pretty much in a good place. But let me take you through these as we go. So the first one is the let's not change anything. Let's keep everybody as is. So as we did this, we made the following assumptions, right?
And just to, sorry to interrupt you, Joe, there's no finalized contract that we can talk about yet, right? The details of that we can't talk about.
Well, I was planning to, but if I can't, then it'll change this whole presentation.
I don't think we can talk about the details of any tentative agreement that might be in place, to my knowledge.
All right. What does the board like me to do?
Well, I think you can consider, you can move forward. Is there any slide that shows any numbers from any tentative agreements that might be out there?
No, but I was going to say it.
Would you just not say that one part?
Make sure there's nothing in here.
I won't, all right, I won't say it. Okay, so we assumed the salary that we know to have been negotiated but has not been ratified yet. We also know that VHI has determined that their recommendation for medical benefits will be a 7.3% increase. That was lower than what we had been talking about. Now, that's not official, of course, until it's voted upon, but my understanding is that VHI's recommendation is typically what is adopted by the legislature. We also made the assumption that in addition to medical benefits, there are lots of other benefits that come that people don't often think about. Things like Medicare, workers' compensation, those kinds of things. Our assumption there was that would go up the same rate as the salary increase because those are directly related to an employee's salary. And then the final thing that we looked at was all the other stuff, right? So you have salaries, you have medical benefits, you have the other benefits, and then you have all that other stuff, electric, fuel for buses, textbooks, all of those kinds of things. We just assumed a inflationary increase for that at 3.4%, okay? So when you think about those numbers, and you think about the highest increase, the medical benefits, 7.3%, that's high, but medical is only about 13% of our budget. So you're talking about increasing 7.3% of a small portion of our budget. So when you put all of those numbers together and you put it in a formula, what we found was that to not cut anything, to keep everything as is, that we would need a budget of $76 million. Now, again, going back, this current year, our budget is 71.5 million. To not do anything different would be $76 million, which is a 6% increase over this year's budget. 71.5 million times 1.06 is 76 million. Maintains current staff. It includes the increased compensation for the contracts, the benefits cost, and inflationary pressures. Now, I think I'll say this at this point. Remember that when we're talking about the increase to the budget, that is not the same as what the increase to the tax rate is, right? Because of the way Vermont is funded, local taxes go into a pot, and then it's divided among all the school districts based on whatever budgets they pass. So it's very possible that if every other school district passed an inordinately large budget, that our taxes might go up even more. Or if they all decided we're not going to increase our budgets at all, our tax rate might go down, right? It's all, it's subject to what every other school district is. So my caveat would be, just remember that our because we're a wealthier district, we're gonna be paying more to help these other districts. And it might not always make sense to reduce services to our own kids because we're providing those services to other districts. That's a little bit of a opinion though. So that's the first one, $76 million, that's a 6% increase in our budget. Let's go to the second one, which was, okay, let's increase only by inflation, the rate of inflation. And we went with 3.4%, which I believe is what the city went to. So if we were to take all these numbers that I mentioned earlier and multiply them out, the 3.4% increase would be a budget of $74 million. So I'm gonna go back. $76 million is we don't cut anything. If we go with inflation, it's 74 million. That means that $2 million difference between 76 and 74, that's where we would need to find reductions to cover that cost. So we say that staffing impact would be approximately 16 teachers. I want to make it really clear that when we talk about how many cuts we're going to have, and we say 16 teachers, that does not mean that we are only going to cut teachers. We use teachers as a number to base our decisions on because we have more teachers than anything else, and it just gives us a constant, right? So administrators are paid more than teachers. Classified staff are paid less than teachers. So there will be cuts at all levels, but just to make it simple for the community to understand, that basically means about 16 teachers, and we use the $130,000 as, when you look at the teacher's average salary and benefits, it's about $130,000. So that's where that 16 fewer teachers comes from, okay? So that's the inflation. The next one was the one we did that middle ground. We fully thought that that was going to be higher than inflation. It turned out being less than inflation. It turned out being 73.6 million and only a 3% increase, which comes out to 19 fewer teachers. Again, with that caveat, that doesn't mean that only teachers will be reduced. There will be reductions at every level. Finally, our last scenario is no increase. If we went in saying we had a $71.5 million budget last year, and we're gonna have a $71.5 million budget next year, that is a 0 increase to our budget. That doesn't mean there won't be a change in taxes, right? There certainly could be a change in taxes, but there would be no increase to what our budget is. That would be about the equivalent of 33 fewer teachers. That starts to get a little more significant, as you can see. That keeps our funding level at the same, and staffing increase or decreases. Jean Marie, do you have anything to clarify or
No, I
add?
think you did a great job. I think the only thing I would just sort of remind folks is that this year, the budget that we're existing in is the $71.5 million, which was an just over 8% increase from the previous year. So if we make to option number one, if we maintain everything, it's only a 6% increase. So it would be a smaller increase from last year.
And so, and here is where I write what I had said a couple times. In any scenario where our revenue does not meet our expenses, staff reductions are going to be necessary to balance the budget. Again, we're a people, education is a people-heavy business. You're not going to make significant cuts by cutting the quality of the toilet paper you purchase or any of those sorts of things, right? They'll make a dent, but really it comes down to people. So while the potential reductions could occur across all employee groups, we use that cost of a teacher position, approximately 130,000, just as a representative example. And it's not intended to suggest that reductions will only occur on teachers. Said that a few times. So our next steps is we're going to, you can look at the budget page, the community can keep updated by looking at the budget page. I am going to have a meeting next Tuesday, November 18th at 7. And that's hopefully where we can start to get feedback from the community about these things that people were talking about earlier. What is important to our community? And that's after we know what our number is. When the board tonight sets this is the big number, then we can start hearing from folks about, this is important to us, or that's important to us, to help the department heads and the principals make their decisions. The final slide is one that, Jen, you, created. Would you like to speak on this? This, I think, is a really pretty graphic about what we're actually talking about with the four or five different, levels that we were talking about.
Yeah, mine don't entirely line up with it, and I appreciated what you just said about the percent increase on healthcare, the 7.3%. That is not, you know, whatever percentage it is, it's not that the entire budget blows up to that, right? But I do think it's important to put that in there to show how that tracks relative to the, you know, inflation rate, that it's so much higher. It's, you know, 2.5 times higher, right?
And 50% less than what we thought it was gonna be. We were prepping for about 14% of an
Okay.
increase, so
So that's good.
that's good news.
So what I had put together, I mean, this is just looking at it as you go from left to right, is 71.5 is obviously fiscal year 25-26 budget. If we stayed flat, 71.5, that's the, you know, 3.4% below inflation. And then continuing over, you know, my numbers things aren't lining up exactly right. And again, my scenarios don't line up, but I just think it's visually, you know, it allows you to kind of see 73.6, 74. I had added in a different scenario there that I was thinking was one of the things we had asked for, which was the scenario between inflation and no cuts.
Yeah.
So that's where that number comes from. And I highlighted things that I just needed you to check my math on. And then the last one was, so that would be, you know, 3.4% below inflation, 0.4% below inflation. Inflation is at 74. 1.7% above inflation, or 2.6% above inflation, which would translate to that 6% overall increase. So anyway, just another way to look at it.
Yeah, no, I think that's very helpful. And again, we were fully expecting that middle piece would be above inflation, but when we did the numbers, it was not, it was less. So what our hope is tonight, and it's a community forum, we want to hear from everybody. But our hope is that the board will make a decision tonight on, and it doesn't have to be, you're not selecting necessarily one of these. It could be anything, but it gives you an idea of if we get the budget at this much, this is what it's going to mean for our staff. If we go this much, this is what it's going to mean for our staff. And it would be impossible to guess what our tax rate's going to be based on that number, just because of the way Vermont funds schools. So.
One, kind of a fact check.
Yeah.
And you checking me. When I computed the budget increase from fiscal year 25 to 26, it was 5%. But I believe it was the tax rate went up just under 8. You said the budget went up 8%, so 6 is less than that.
Yeah, the voted on budget that I saw was 8.1%.
We need to check that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important distinction because
Yeah.
the claim then as well. That our top end is actually under last year.
I have a question for Dr. Clark or Jean Marie. It's my understanding, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have a 5-year subsidy due to negative impact from Act 127 that is phasing out progressively over 5 years. I'm curious if that phasing is reflected in these budget numbers here, or if I have my facts wrong.
What I can tell you is that I am not intimately involved in every minor piece of the budget, so I can't speak exactly to that. But what I can tell you is that my team is very, very aware of the budget, where all these numbers come from. And so what we did to develop the budget was look at the actual numbers from FY 25 and then walk it forward 2 years, knowing all of those impacts and the things that are changing. So I can't tell you 100% that was calculated in there, but I can tell you I'm incredibly confident in my staff. They know all of this far more than I do. So, you know, I certainly can double check that for you, but yeah.
I would love to
Yeah.
know that.
I can answer that. So the decrease of a credit that we're talking about for 5 years is really only tied up in the calculation of the tax rate. It doesn't have anything to do with what your revenue is or what your expenditures are. It's just part of the crazy tax calculation that, you know, once you go through the whole formula, it will be adjusted because of that credit that we have. So it has more to do with what is the tax rate change as opposed to what is the spending rate change. Because it doesn't impact the revenue or the expenses, it just goes in the calculation of the tax rate itself.
Sure, thank you, I appreciate the distinction there. The reason I asked that those, if we are trying to focus on a budget that will pass, we need to have those factors considered, right? Since it will ultimately be a tax rate that's borne by the citizens, right? So I'm trying to.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the crazy, if I may say a couple things. I first of all, I'm very happy we're having this conversation. You could argue that it's premature because you honestly have zero idea of what the tax rate is gonna be on any budget that you say should be the budget, right? Which is why I was a little bit concerned in some of the earlier, you know, advertisement of this meeting, that the board is gonna pick the final budget, right? There's no way you can pick a final budget, right? And I think Seamus and Joe have already clarified that, but until you get the state inputs to the tax formula, you don't have any idea.
Right.
And you don't know what the yield is gonna be, which is the most important one. You don't know what our coming up with appraisal, CLA is gonna be. You know, and people may say, well, housing prices in South Burlington have leveled off. Right? So we don't expect that to be as big of an impact as it has been. The problem is that's a 3-year average, right? And it's 3 years through April of 2025. So if you think housing prices haven't raised in the last 3 years, then that would be a valid argument. But the fact is you don't know, right? And so it's impossible to even speculate. You know, in years past, at this point in the budget process, we would just say, well, if the yield stayed exactly the same and the equalized pupil count stayed exactly the same and everything stayed the same, then the impact of a cut of a spending number would have a certain tax impact. But I think it's better to do it this way and to talk more about how do we want to invest in the schools, independent of the tax question. I mean, that will come. It will come, but it won't come for another 4 or 6 weeks or something. Right? So.
Yeah, and I had a comment on that.
Yeah, please, Seamus, go.
So I appreciate your perspective, Tim, and I know that it comes from a place of expertise and suffering through multiple budget rounds. I think that the action the board needs to take tonight is to draw a box. As elected representatives of the taxpayer, our job is to determine what burden we're going to put on the taxpayer. And then it's the job of, you know, experts to fit within that box. And so, you know, I think that it's possible to decide on a number tonight that is fair to the taxpayer and fair to the district, and then turn it over to operations to figure out how to fill that in.
I have an answer to Michelle's question. Thank you, Seamus. The FY 25 budget was $68,082,002. So it was about a 5% increase to the budget between fiscal year 25 and fiscal year 26. So the 8% is probably the tax rate.
Okay, I remember seeing it like 7.93 eventually after everything shook out and we knew everything.
So I would,
Yeah, we got it, Seamus.
yeah, okay, I just wanted to call on Phil Sirks, who's online. He has his hand raised. If you can unmute Phil.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to say thanks for this opportunity to talk. I've been a science teacher and teacher leader at the high school for 14 years. And I wanted to say amen to what Tim just said. I just think very strongly that it's the school board's responsibility to safeguard and steward the schools. That's the community's largest asset. And we need to get behind the budget, which is the budget that the schools need to be able to preserve what's best for kids. And we don't sell a tax rate. Like, we don't control the tax rate. That's a legislature issue. And after everything that happened last year and where we landed this year, everybody around the school district and all the schools is feeling the pain of a lot of really major cuts that were made as a result of the process and how everything transpired. And it's really the most vulnerable kids that are being the most affected by the cuts that were made. And I'd really like to implore upon the board respectfully, and I'd really like to see the board just get right behind that 6% option and maintain current levels of staffing. I think that's a responsible choice. And the worst that happens is the community says no. And then there are 3 options that fall in behind that. Thank you.
You have a question? So public can we speak now?
Yes. Please do.
Dr. Joe Clark and Jennifer, I appreciate your perspective on how you're looking forward. I guess the perspective I want to bring with the data I shared is take a look back a little. Understand the progression of the costs and ask the question, has it been reasonable? And I'm trying to demonstrate to you that there is something unusual about South Burlington spending, the non-personal cost category. I appreciate your comments about toilet paper. Unfortunately, toilet paper is probably a small percent of $18 million in non-personal costs. Okay, so there's a lot of money in non-personal costs. The fact that it has gone up 8% over the last 5 years, probably double the inflation, right? This light keeps going in.
Yeah, he's right up on it.
Should draw my attention. The fact that hello? Can you hear me? My thing's on. I'll try to speak up. The fact that it went up 29%, I understand the reserve comment about, and I think I know how it works, because if I can take an example of fiscal year 24, there was $1.4 billion in the budget. And in the actual, it got reversed to $52,000. That means that it got absorbed in some other way or got completely eliminated. So I'm hoping that the miscellaneous costs, something like that, it will work itself out of the budget, which means that $2 billion that you have identified it doesn't go into your new baseline.
Right.
Your new baseline is going to be something different. And I just want to draw your attention to benchmark. You can do your own research and accept me or not accept me. I benchmarked 4 districts in this category. Colchester, CBSD have a historical rate of 2% in the non-personal category. Essex has got 4%. Burlington is the same as South Burlington, 8%. The 8% is a result of a $200 million capital project. So there is structured loan payments. That's what is driving that. And if you assume that the 8% is okay for what South Burlington is doing, and if you accept that maybe some of the 29% comes back because this $2 million that you have allocated, it's still a big increase for 26. All I would urge you to do or think about is take a look back, make an attempt to understand why South Burlington is an outlier. I'm not sure, just looking forward and adding inflation or double the inflation, I'm not sure whether that's a robust approach. in this environment. And just a couple of comments. Let's ask the question, are these one-time increases? How can you observe a 29% increase? Setting aside the 2 million that we talked about. If this is permanent, right? What's the implication of that? I suggested that in the email to Dr. Clark. It raises a question around the oversight of these type of costs. 5 or 6 years ago, I was told, don't worry, it's all people, it's all people, it's all people. But if this number is getting to a point, I think it needs some oversight.
Right.
$18 million is not a small amount of money. And if this keeps escalating at the historical rate of 8 or 11%, I think there's an issue here. So, the last time I participated in these type of discussions was about 6 years ago. And I would like to look at this with a different lens and offer a different perspective. I'm not here to challenge you on other aspects of school operation, how teachers' position and all that. So thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you will look into this further, and I'm happy to be available online, offline to discuss this with you.
Straight up. May I ask you a question?
Yes,
So, your point is very well taken, speaking for myself. And, I'm wondering what your recommended approach is then, because we have spoken a lot about using inflation as a benchmark. And I completely understand and accept your criticism, but curious what an alternative that you may have thought, if you're willing to share.
yeah. Like I said, I'm offering a different perspective. I'm not offering a criticism here. These are some good observation based on actual data. So I think the first step for the district is to accept the observations and, validate. These are all out of budget books. I don't use anything else. And, validate that. The second thing I would say is any organization, when a group of costs is escalating like this, there needs to be some oversight. There needs to be some oversight. I mean, there may be like 50 different contracts associated with all these stuff. Is somebody looking at the 50 contracts and saying, are the price increases reasonable from the service providers? Are we looking at other options, alternate sources? And I'm just pointing out to you by benchmarking, you have a demographic around you, 4 different school districts. They are not too far. These service providers are no different than who's serving South Wellington. It's not like you're comparing California to Vermont. So these types of issues takes diligence and good oversight. So I'm not asking you to solve the problem today. I'm asking you to take this into consideration and devote the right resources. I'm going to say a word here that may not be popular here, but I'm going to say it. There are people who can help with efficiency. There are people who can help with contract negotiations. Okay, just have someone looking out for the school district. I'm not sure whether these escalating costs demonstrate that someone is looking out for the school district. That's my impression. I'm not trying to criticize, I'm just making an observation.
I greatly appreciate your feedback, and I don't take it as criticism. I've been on the job less than 2 months.
Yeah.
So these aren't my issues. And what I found in my 2 months is that, there are probably, well, more than probably, there are ways that we can be more efficient. And I also don't know all of the reasons for these numbers that you're given. I can speculate for some of them, but not all of them. For example, we have a program at South Point that used to be completely outsourced. So that would have been a purchase service. They're now employees of South Burlington. So that would cause a shift in where that money's going. But I have not done a dive into that yet in my 2 months here. But I greatly appreciate your feedback, and we'll absolutely look more into it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I don't take it as a criticism either. I take it as a opportunity or perhaps announcement for you to run for the school board.
I'm sorry, I've been asked to do that. I don't think it's in my skill set to do that. I do other things for the community, but this is something that I've been asked to do. Thank you. Thank you.
And I guess I should clarify that by definition of criticism might not be the definition of everybody else's.
No, not at all.
It's normal in my world to accept
Okay.
criticism as a, form of seeking improvement. So, thank you.
So we have on the line, Jerry Silverstein has his hand up. If you can please allow him to speak.
Okay, so just a few points. First of all, current inflation is not 3.4%. Current inflation as of October is 3%, and that can make a difference. I also want to address one point the interim superintendent made about South Burlington being a contributor because it's a relatively wealthy community. Everybody should be aware primary homesteads in all school districts statewide, all of them, contribute only 25% of the assets in the education fund. Indeed, sales tax, which 100% goes into the ed fund, raises the same amount of revenue as the primary homesteads in all school districts statewide. So the real issue is how well endowed the ed fund is going to be, not just in terms of primary homesteads contributing to school budgets, but in terms of sales tax, second homes, businesses. It's a very complicated equation, and we'll have a better idea of that when the Commissioner of Taxes presents his December 1 letter to the legislature. Right now, you're just playing a whack-a-mole. You know so little about reality down the road, so you're just playing a guessing game right now. But let me address the point that the teacher in the school system made, who talked about keeping all the positions as they are right now. Let me give you some numbers. In this year's budget, Superintendent Nichols had a slide, which I consider to be one of the worst slides I've ever seen, exemplifying selection bias. In that slide, which I'll read to you now, it talked about staff reductions over the last 3 years. In FY24, 23.7 FTEs were reduced. In FY25, 6.8 FTEs were reduced. And this year in FY26, 14.95 FTEs were reduced. That gives you a grand total of 45.5 FTEs being reduced over the last 3 years. On a strictly proportional basis, that would represent almost 10% of all of your FTEs. What Violet left out, and for which I lambasted her many times, was in FY23, we added 39.19 FTEs. So the net change over 4 years was 6.31 FTEs. And of those 6.31 FTEs, 4 of them were not real people. They were just placeholders. So over 4 years, the sky was not falling because we had a net change of 2 FTEs. And if you compare FY21 to FY26, we've had a gain of 0.2 FTEs, while we've had an enrollment decrease of between 4 and 5% of students. Comparing enrollment at the turn of the century, we are now down about 10% of total students that were present at the turn of the century. How much is South Burlington trying to control spending? Answer, not very much. Let me tell you why. If we compare South Burlington to our neighboring districts like Essex, Westford, and CVSD, as a percent of total FTEs, not just the number, as a percent of total FTEs, for the last 2 years, South Burlington has reduced its total by 4.3%. If you want to do real people, it's reduced it by 3.5%. That was after that gain of 39.19 FTEs. The Essex Westford has a 2-year total FTE reduction of 11.5% versus South Burlington at 4.3%. And in CVSD, they had a 2-year total of an 8.8% FTE reduction. Please don't tell me South Burlington is doing as much as it can do compared to our neighboring school districts. The data argues against that. People hate the data in this community. They always declare if they don't like the data, it's irrelevant. Well, data is never irrelevant. The data says we haven't been doing anything structurally to bring spending under control. You said the inflation is at 4%. That's wrong. It's 3%. You said massive cuts have hurt education. Well, the truth is we haven't been making massive cuts. We've made very little cuts, even while student enrollment has gone down. You're living in a fantasy world, and you can only do that because you suck out more and more money every year from the population. The same thing is happening at the federal government level. Let me tell you what the students of today are going to experience when they go out into the real.
I think there's a time check on you,
minutes.
Jerry.
Yeah,
There's no
there's
time
time
check.
check on this? Well, okay, that's. Okay.
Well,
going,
either there is a
Keep
time check or there isn't a time check. Your
Sorry, you
choice.
can't hear us. There is not.
That's news
Well-
to me. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the point to be had is if you don't bring, so make a decision.
Yeah.
No, you're
decision's
fine.
been
I'm
made.
very fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what happens when you don't look at spending? What happens when you just justify every dollar and every position? What happens is what's happening at the federal government level. They keep on justifying every dollar spent. And the end result of that is current federal deficit is now $38 trillion. Since the year 2000, the federal deficit, the aggregate debt of the federal government is now up 565%. That's what happens when you don't look at what you're doing. You just keep justifying every dollar spent. And the reason this is important is because this is the economic future that the children in the school system, which everybody says they care about, that's what they're going to face. So I'm telling you, if you don't control spending in the public schools, you're going to have another problem on top of a major problem already. We have the second highest spending per pupil of all 50 states. We have the highest property taxes of all 50 states as a percent of income. If you go right down the line of data point after data point after data point, the end result, the message is school spending in the state of Vermont is out of control, and there's been not enough effort to try to do something about it. The teacher's position that we should keep every position and we should go with the 6% increase is so mind-numbingly absurd, it defies rational explanation and interpretation. That's what I want to say tonight, and I hope you'll listen to at least part of what I said.
Thank you for your comment. I would like to say I appreciate that feedback. And I'm looking here and I see that the US inflation rate as of September 2025 was 3% for the 12-month period ending in September, according to the Consumer Price Index.
Yep.
However, the Northeast region's Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers, which is the number that was quoted in this deck, was 3.3%. So I don't know, it is still off by 0.1%. And then I was looking up, like, why is it so different? And the reason the inflation rate is higher in the Northeast region is due to the region's strong housing market, where slower construction has led to steeper increases in shelter costs. So if you're looking nationally, the average is going to be lower because perhaps you're going to have lower costs of living other places. But in the Northeast, that is part of the reason it's higher. So maybe perhaps Joe or Jean Marie, you can speak to where the 3.4 versus the 3.3% came from for the Northeast region.
Let me just jump in for 1 second. I just want to tell you, my Social Security increase next year is going to be 2.8%. Last year it was 2.5%, and the year before that it was 3.2%. And every year you've been 2 to 3-fold higher than my Social Security increase, and 18% of residents in the community of South Burlington are senior citizens. Again, you're picking and choosing data without any contrasting data to understand the impact on the residents in this community.
If I could just offer a bit of data on
Sorry,
that.
the Social Security increase is based on a different inflation index as well.
Yes,
so-
I'm very well aware of that, but that's the money that's coming into me as opposed to the money that's going out to the school system, whose academic proficiency outcomes are anything to be particularly excited about, is the best way I could explain it.
Jen, could I make a data point here?
Yes,
So,
please.
over the last 5 years, the school budget has gone up by 32%. Social Security, if you had benefits before 2020 and you were only going off of the COLA increases, then it went up by about 21%. If you look at the average Social Security benefit, which does not include, which disadvantages a little bit for people who have had Social Security for longer, it has also grown by 31%. And teacher wages over the last 5 years have grown by 16%.
A bunch of crap. It's a bunch of crap.
All of that, Jerry, I think, yeah, please maintain.
If you're going to put
decorum.
false information into the public domain, I'm going to protest.
Jerry, I put all those numbers, I put all
Yeah,
the.
and I told you were wrong, and I showed you the contract that the teachers have.
Over the last 5 years, teacher pay has gone up by 16%. That's what's in the contracts, and
The
that's
contract is 15.5% over 3 years. That's what the contract says. Read the damn contract.
I'm gonna request that.
yeah.
And it can be a little bit more civic on these calls in order to facilitate a good discussion. If people start to get contentious, then they're not gonna be, it's great to hear your comment, but if you can't do it civic mindedly, then it really
I put the contract online for everybody to see. It's quite clear. It's a 15.5% increase over 3 years. It's
Mr.
online.
Silverstein, I would like to say that we are trying to work together here. You have a panel of volunteers on this school board that have devoted that probably close to 1,000 hours already this year. We are doing our best. We are listening to the public. Please keep your voice down and behave in a civic-minded manner, or you can submit your comments in writing. Thank you.
I'm tired of false
Yes,
information
please
being placed into the public.
mute Mr. Silverstein, thank you.
There's another.
Go
online.
ahead. No, go ahead. Oh, is there another comment online? I'm sorry, who?
Timor.
Yes, please, unmute.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a comment about the budget fund allocation about for the library at Orchard Elementary School.
Oh, good. Thank you, Timor. I'd love to hear it.
This is Mabel Moore.
My name is Mabel Moore.
Oh, Mabel Moore. Thank you, Mabel. We'd love to hear your comment.
I'm in 5th grade at Orchard School, and the kids at Orchard School would very much like for some of the budget fund to be spent on our library helper, Miss Kara, working full-time. We'd have a better selection of books, better lessons, and altogether a better library if she was there, because then our main librarian wouldn't have to spend most of the younger kids' lessons trying to keep them out of places they shouldn't be in the library and away from areas they shouldn't be. We would have better books because then people could focus, they could work on getting better books for our library, and our lessons could be more planned out and have more time spent on them and could be better.
That it?
Please finish, continue.
And if Miss Kara was there, our books would be shelved in faster, and so people could read the books that they wanted to read sooner and wouldn't have to wait so long. Those are the reasons why I think some of the budget fund should go to making sure Miss Kara is in our library full time.
Mabel, that was an excellent comment. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes.
May I?
Yes. please.
So I would urge Mabel to come and sit in the middle of the circle to remind all of us what we're actually talking about when you're talking about budgets. I know you guys work so hard, and I'm sorry that it's underappreciated. But I am gonna bring up a negative thing, which is that I sent an email when I left the last meeting, because when I left, I had a medical appointment, I had no choice. I was really upset that I didn't have a chance to voice this. There's only 4 options that were being discussed, 3 options. that were discussed. And none of them were looking at what's really needed that got lost last year. Like teachers' aides, big picture program. Another counselor at the high school. And nobody asked Ally or Roman what was missing. These guys are at the table, they need to be listened to. There should be some questions asked of them. And I don't think you're giving the community enough credit. You know, what you're saying is our very top end is the same number as last year. Well, then the community is gonna look at that and say, okay, they picked the top end number. You know, at least let them know that you did look at something that was a little bit more to put us back in a better, I hope I don't run into Jerry in the parking lot. You know, but, okay, so if it's not 71, it's 72 or 72.5. These are the things that we lost last year that matter, that need to be replaced or need to be reconsidered. And at least that shows the community, yeah, they didn't pick the highest number. So it's starting at baseline, you know, considering that what we lost last year is now gonna be a win this year. I don't think it's selling the community. You're not giving them credit. And I really feel strongly that, you know, it needs to be a conversation around students' needs. And the Maples of the world, the Allens and the Moments. And the Living Gales. Not just numbers. Children and all of it.
I would like to address the notion of the numbers, because I don't think that there's a single person in this room that isn't thinking about the kids. And yet we have the responsibility to deliver, I believe the words are, the best education that the community is willing to support. And to talk only about incremental program-specific items, which of course aren't even a part of the discussion yet, right? That's not really what we're here. That's not the first step.
Yep.
It's a really important one that the operations team and the school leadership are going to be spending, I'm sure, a lot of time, and it's going to be really difficult. But I just want to level set that we're all thinking about the kids, but we have to be honest with ourselves too, that we're not necessarily thinking of the exact same things that are in the best interest of the children.
Right.
Thank you.
Speaking of,
And
and
I
it's-
was not judging anyone. Please don't.
no, I understand, but that does come up a lot. I've listened to a lot of meetings, you know, I'm new here, but I've listened to a lot. And eventually that conversation devolves into you know, if you're trying to manage the budget, then you don't care about this thing, or you don't care about this person. And I just want to make it clear that I don't personally think that's a very productive way to have this conversation when we're all in this as a partnership, right? We all play a role here.
I guess what I'm trying to say is. Listen to the voices that are in these sections day in and day out as well. You know, about what needs are before you decide you're not going to shoot for a little.
Yeah, it's a tough position for sure,
Oh, yeah.
because, I mean, we just came off the heels of the VSBA, VSA training, the annual conference that we went to a couple of weeks ago. It was a several-day conference. And, you know, that your North Star is your students and doing right by the kids, right? But then you also do have to balance this with having a sustainable budget. And when you have, you know, all of these costs that go into it and you're outpacing inflation, you know, I think the challenge is there an opportunity to look at the budget and identify efficiencies? Can we look at it through a fresh set of eyes? This is a question, you know, can we look at the budget through a fresh set of eyes? Can we have more rigor and diligence in looking at where the money is going instead of kind of, not to say that that's been what's been done, but I share your concerns also. I mean, I'm a taxpayer also, and our tax bill has gone up significantly.
Yeah.
So I hear that, and I am very close to retirement, so I hear the people that are sharing that, hey, I'm on a fixed income, what's that gonna look like? But I also feel that it is critical that we invest in our schools because it is the most valuable asset in our community. And that will also help drive up our home prices if you have great schools. When we moved to South Burlington, when we moved to Vermont 4 years ago, it was a very quick decision. We had 3 days to decide. And what I did is I looked up where were the best schools in the state. And at the time, it was South Burlington and it was CVU. And we couldn't find homes. We actually looked and drove over and looked at schools at CVU because I had 4 kids going into high school. And we looked at the school and it was a beautiful school, but there were no homes. And then we found a rental and we were able to live in a rental. And I was not impressed with South Burlington High School. Driving in, I was like, it's a little run down, you know, but we ended up settling here. It's been a great decision. I'm really happy to be here. But what I'm saying is it's important to invest. A community must invest in their schools in order to, you know, to increase the attractiveness of wanting people to move into your community, right? So anyway, I just wanted to say that. Yes, please.
If I may just add one more thing, with the Nicholas comments here about how you lost ground from last year. When we consider the ads. Just to put things in perspective, based on what Jennifer was saying. In the fiscal year 25 budget, 26 budget. There was a reduction of total salaries and benefits combined for roughly, excluding the medical insurance. Roughly about $1 million. So the number I've been talking about for non-personal spend. $18 million. You crawl back 5% of the 18 million. You can get back all those nice things. I mean, I think when Jennifer talks about somebody looking at it with a different lens, different perspective, this is what it's going to take. I mean, you're not taking money away from anyone, you're just being smarter.
Exactly.
And I guess it's the way that you're presenting that makes absolute sense.
Yeah.
And the way that's being presented to us is that we're gonna lose 16 teachers. And I realize that it's only 16 full-time equivalents. But when it's presented like that,
Yeah.
you know, we need to find that money and figure out where
That's
we're
it.
wasting it as opposed to just cutting teachers.
Drive the efficiencies. That's the point. Like, how do we find efficiencies in our budget now? Right? Sorry,
Yes,
go ahead,
yes,
Joe.
This is what I'd like to say is, just as we said, when we're talking about it's X number of teachers, that it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be all teachers. I would also offer this. Just because if the board were to go with the, everything stays, number. That does not mean that everything is going to stay the same, right? It just means that number is going to be the same, because I've heard from people who don't think that the district made some of the cuts they should have, or they made cuts they should not have. In other words, I think there needs to be some level of trust with the new administrative team. That we have the ability to go in and find some of those efficiencies to weed some of that stuff out, so we can provide those services that perhaps were cut. Every car I drive has 250,000 miles on it at least, right? I don't want to pay any more than anybody else does. And also, I very, very much understand the importance of quality education, not only for the future of our kids, but also for the community, the strength of the community and that. But I think it would be, I think it would be arrogant to think that every single cent that we spend right now, we're spending in the proper form. We're just not.
And that is the issue, right? And I think that as a steward, as the school board is, and looking at this and presenting this, that is the concern that I have, is I don't want to keep piling it on without taking a hard look at what we have there and are we being as efficient as we possibly can with the monies that have been entrusted,
I agree with that.
right?
And that's a, Jen,
Oh,
if
go
I,
ahead, Seamus, and then we're gonna let Moman and Ally speak.
yeah, and then we've also got a couple people online.
Okay.
Samantha and Diane and Jerry and Jess. I go back to something that Dr. Joe said at the beginning of the meeting, which is that he's looking forward to hearing feedback about priorities, you know, in the weeks to come. And I think that just to stay focused as a board on our job is to decide what the taxpayers will pay and want to pay. And so there are efficiencies, there are audits, there are optimizations that can be done, but that's, you know, that comes later. And our job is to fundamentally determine what is a fair ask. And I think that in a year where, you know, we're not contemplating major construction or renovations or something like that. You know, there's no major initiative that we're about to embark on. I think that we should consider that inflation is a benchmark that will, you know, be a fair thing to ask the voters to pay for. And it's also what the city council did. The city council, I think it was back on October 1st, set their budget increase at inflation at 3.4%.
Yep.
Can I just say something real quick to just right what Seamus said?
please.
I hear what you're saying, Seamus. But we are in a way recovering as a district from what was lost last year. We might not have CapEx, we might not be building an actual physical building or fixing a physical building, but we're fixing an emotional school district. And so that does take money. And so I think that's a really important thing to consider when we're talking about bringing back what was lost and finding ways to do it efficiency, maybe not having to spend extra money, but finding where the money is to get back what we lost and keep it the same as it was. So I just wanted to add that. I'm sorry, Moment, I took your spot.
Well, we're talking about efficiencies. If I remember correctly, like right before COVID, there was plans on like building a new school. And there was like a full audit of the high school and maybe K through 12. And I know it's not the most up to date, but do we have access to that data still? Is that like still something that we can go off of? And look there first before we do like a new audit of everything and think about that. I know you're mentioning, that's something you might want to look at. But I was wondering if that data we have and it's something we can reference first to try and find some preliminary data.
Are you saying, repeat that? So it's the review that was done pre-pandemic at building a new high school?
Yeah.
Is that what you had just said?
If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure there was an audit of the high school and how it was being ran, and if that was completely efficient. And it might have been K through 12 as well, I'm not certain. And I was wondering if that data we can go back to, and if it's something we can.
Efficiency about it. I don't.
I don't know the answer.
Good
to that.
question.
Yeah, we'll definitely look into it.
Thanks, Jen. Good
I
idea.
think somewhere buried in our horrible website, if it's improved a lot. There's a section of that whole period of the bond that was proposed and decided to build a new high school. There's probably something in there, man. I don't know, I can't remember.
You want to know
There was a lot of money spent on this stuff.
Yeah.
I remember the numbers. Number one, it was upsetting that the school board back then went for the highest option. There were either 4 or 5 options. They went with the highest one. And it was $209.6 million. With interest, it was $345 million.
Yeah, I don't know, like, what were the specific initiatives as part of that, not everything. amount, like what were some of the opportunities?
Was that the new school? I was at that meeting.
Right, so they came up with, it was 4 or 5 choices. And like I said, they went with the most expensive, which was for the 2 new schools.
Yeah.
It was gonna be $209.6 million. And with interest, it was going to be $345 million.
I think
Moment's talking about,
I think Moment's point is mostly that if we can use that instead of spending money, a lot of money on a new audit, then that might be helpful, like trying to reference that information.
If that one
first.
exists, yeah.
Yeah,
Right, the
that-
research that was done to.
Yeah.
I think part of what David had done, Moment, you're absolutely right, was he had his own numbers as to what it would take to bring the existing schools up to par. Yeah, and, you know, and they were probably somewhat inflated because he was trying to sell community on this new school idea. But, you know, there was a study done to where the high school was, what it would need over the course of the next 10 years, and all the elementary schools and environmental. So, yeah, that information is somewhere, and the community paid a lot of money for it, and
Right.
it might be somewhat outdated, but at least the percentages would certainly be interesting.
I think though, I mean, isn't a lot of that talking about capital spending as opposed to curriculum, programs, and things like that, right? So, I mean, I don't think we should really expend any time right now on capital spending because of Act 73 and
Yeah.
with the fact that you don't have the money to. I mean, I would never put a bond in front of you right now. But Lauren's point is really relevant, which is how do you get to the bottom of what the non-capital needs of the school district is? I mean, a lot of the historical review of data will also be negatively impacted by the way that we shifted our whole financial system last year. And had to reclassify a tremendous number of expenses to library in Vermont by law on chart accounts. So I would not trust, and I was the senior director. I would not trust. Well, I would not put a lot of faith in FY 26 line items. And so the second says, well, professional, but you're right, the budget, you're saying it's not accurate. For a number of line items that were reclassified. And so I would look at FY 26, the current year budget is the first time in years, many years. That is more accurate than in the past of what we're spending money on or what we're budgeting money on. Whether it's professional development, capital, toilet paper, or whatever, it's much more accurate FY 26, so. I think you start with FY 26. And you say, okay, like, you spent X thousands of dollars on a certain line of the training, personal development, gas, whatever. Where are those opportunities? And I think you're right, there's a lot. And I can also guarantee you that in the past few years, the budget is basically just kept, it rolls over. Right, there hasn't been any, there was no time or capacity to go into the 50 contracts that you're talking about. But it doesn't mean that the exercise isn't valid. I think you'll find a lot of that to say. If you go to that level of analysis of contracts and other line items, so that's where I would start. Yeah.
Right, so if we can, I just want to answer, there's a few people that are online, I'm just doing a time check also. So if we can, just in order, could you please unmute Samantha? Thank you.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Thanks so much for listening to the community and offering these forums for us. Sorry, I'm not able to be there in person. I wanted to start by saying I know how challenging it is to balance the needs of the taxpayers with the needs of the schools and the students and the staff. And as a staff member and a parent, I would love no reductions. And I wholeheartedly agree with what Phil was saying earlier. However, as someone who also wants the budget to pass the first time, I understand the need to look at the inflation, or I really did like the option of the 1.7% above inflation. I'd hate to see anything less, as I truly do feel like our students would continue to be negatively impacted with further reductions. I also understand we're not talking about specific cuts tonight. However, based on how quickly things move once the budget number is set by the board and continuing with this efficiency conversation, I want to urge the board to look at how our budget is being spent and ask a few questions in this forum setting. The first one, if we are going to be choosing a budget option, which will include cuts, I'm wondering what criteria are used when deciding whether to cut student-facing positions rather than administrative positions, including all of those employed at central office. The second one, I'd be curious to know what percentage of the overall personnel budget is allocated to administrative positions versus student-facing staff, and how that's changed over the past 5 years. And lastly, are there performance metrics in place to evaluate the impact of administrative spending on student outcomes? I'd be happy to email these questions to the board if you need some time to consider them and to address them in other settings. But I just wanted to bring them to the forefront as spending and potential cuts are going to be looked at.
Yeah, Samantha, if you could email those questions, I was trying to write them down, but I don't think I caught them all exactly right. That would be fantastic.
Perfect. I can
Perhaps those
See?
sound like operational questions. Perhaps those should go to
For
Joe
sure.
Clark and then CC the board.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, thank you for your comment. Okay, next we have Diane Bugby on the line, her hand up.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to comment and for all that you do for the district. Just something quick. I know, we've talked about different options and, this possibility of preserving programs and, what that would cost and so forth. And I was just hoping that as you plan the budget for next year, that there may be some consideration for what was lost last year and how students are faring, how the district is faring as a result of those changes, and whether there's just any consideration for bringing anything back. I know we did hear a little bit about the library media technicians and, how that has impacted Orchard School. And, I do think about big picture program and wonder how those students are doing. And so I guess, as you build the budget, thinking about current programs, but also things that held value that were lost last time around, and what was the impact, and what potential for bringing some of those things back. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that comment, Jess. And I will say those are my feelings also, thinking about big picture, thinking about the Japanese program that was cut. I do feel that those held tremendous value, having hosted several Japanese students at our house and how great that was with the Thai program. But, these are all operational questions that it's going to be up to our administrators to understand. But I would encourage you, as Dr. Clark had said, there's going to be a meeting next Tuesday, November 18th. Where's that going to be? Is that here?
That's a virtual.
Okay, it's a virtual meeting. And what time will it be?
6 o'clock.
Okay, and how can will it be posted on the website for them to call into that?
Sorry, 7 o'clock. It's on our website. The link for the Zoom is on our website.
Will be linked on the website. And is that going to be a one-time opportunity, or is there going to be another forum like that where community can weigh in?
That's the only one planned right now, but
Okay.
I'll do whatever.
Okay.
whatever it takes.
So I would encourage you, Jess, for sure to, if you can, be a part of that conversation, because I think we need to hear what's important in the community. And all this feedback is so important, right? So. Okay. Came back, all right, and so Jess is up. Jess, do we have another? Thank you.
You mean Jerry? Jeff?
That the person just speaking was not me. That was somebody else. But is it my turn or is it Jerry's turn?
It is your turn, Jess. We've got your turn on.
Okay, I do appreciate like the tricky balance that you have to walk right here. Prior to being in this district, which I've only been in for a year and a half now, I worked in Burlington School District for 4 years. And prior to working in Burlington, I worked in the Essex School District for 4 years as a support staff member. And when I started at Essex, the new superintendent came in and had everybody in every building reading this book called Building Equity. And it was kind of a like radical way of thinking back then, but it is a word we commonly use without putting any action steps to it. But I loved having to read that book as like I was just the webmaster, but part of what I was doing was helping them message around what we were doing in the schools. And then I saw them enacting those steps in the schools to make sure that the right kind of services and the right kind of supports, all these student facing positions that we don't use the word teacher to describe, but to the kids they work with, they are teachers. All of that is part of the overall ecosystem of a school district. And in Essex, when I had started working there in 2017, they were making that their number one priority. And boy, it was really helpful when the pandemic came to already have some of those structures in place. And then in Burlington, I worked in the highest needs school of the district and the highest EL population school of the district. And we had the most resources because they used something called the RISE funding. And that funding system, and you can look it up, it's RISE is an acronym, but it's got to do with racial injustices and like creating equity in areas that are underserved. It meant that based on formula that they've made, they determined which schools needed the resources the most. When I came here, I asked questions about how they made decisions around the cuts and if they looked at the resources the schools needed, and I didn't hear that information and I didn't see that information. But if you're talking big picture and how to know where to make choices and also how to allocate the many resources that this district already has, I would suggest, and I think a lot of people would agree, if you start with equity and you let equity lead you and the need to serve certain populations more than others and making sure that the students with the highest needs are getting the supports they need and looking at where we have maybe some extra resources and considering moving us around, like it might serve us better. And I know that teachers don't like to hear that stuff and nobody likes to split their job between buildings. But I also know that like in neither, like Essex did level budgeting last year and they still didn't lose their 4th and 5th grade band and chorus programs. Like those are bonus programs by most district standards right now. But like the parents said, this is what our value is. And there was time after the budget was decided, after the level budgeting plan was decided, for parents to still weigh in and for families to say, we want music, we value music. And it did mean cutting people across buildings and spreading people around differently. But like, I just gotta say that like there should be a way for community to continue to weigh in after whatever decision to budget is made. And that's all. Thank you for.
No, thank you for that. And I do want to just add real quick that with Passant, with the budget partners and the budget model that's coming out and
we're all
Joe,
over
Dr.
that.
Clark, you can
We're all
speak
what
to
you're
that.
talking about, right?
Yeah, I mean, there
Budgeting
is.
will be based on, there's a variety of factors based on, poverty, all sorts of things.
So
Help us determine the allocation for each building and program.
And I think that to that point, Jess, that you were making that, you know, I think there is going to be a different perspective in the way that this model is going to help shape the amount of monies that are going to different schools based on that model and that need, right? So it is going to be a little different than what we've seen in the past. And it actually is the same model that Burlington used, or not the same model, but it's the same group to help develop that model. So I do think that there's going to be more of an evaluation with equity, right?
Well, I've been here 2 months, so I don't know what was done in the past.
Okay.
I do know that, that's one of my core values is equity for all students. So you'll see that in action.
Okay, I'm just looking at the time and there's 3 people with their hands raised right now. We have, I believe that's Elizabeth Fitzgerald, Bridget Burkhart, and Jerry Silverstein. And so I would like to go to Elizabeth and Bridget first. And then I just looked at the weather and snow is still coming down very heavy.
Yep.
So if we've got a few minutes there left, you know, because then the board still needs to take a vote on this tonight. So if we can get through this quickly, I would like to give Mr. Silverstein an opportunity to comment again. But I will say, you know, it is critical that we have civil discourse and respectfulness. If people come on and they're angry and just contentious, it's not going to go well. So with that, can you please unmute Elizabeth Fitzgerald first, if that would be okay?
Hi, thank you, Jen. I'll try to be brief here. A couple things. One, I think in any case, the board is going to be looking at sort of a 2 to 4 million increase over prior years. So I do think the conversation about demonstrating value is really important. I also think there are a lot of benchmarking data that either for the state or for our community, you know, doesn't present well, whether it's per pupil spending, whether it's number of FTEs, it may be student outcomes, it may be capital needs. So framing those data in a way that the community can kind of rally around and understand, and looking at efficiencies. I really appreciated Srini's comments about benchmarking community or neighborhoods, districts, and so forth. It would be really important. I also think looking at, I appreciated Dr. Clark's comment about sort of a fully burdened FTE. So, you know, looking at the 5-year trend of what a fully burdened FTE may look like, I think would also be helpful, because I think it would highlight the healthcare part as well as what the actual wages and total benefits have been on a fully burdened basis. I do believe Jerry is accurate in his assessment that the last 3-year contract represented a 15.5% new money increase, and that excluded the compounding year over year. So one way to look at that might be the budget versus actual versus of contracts versus, you know, line items. But again, I think the conversation around value, the conversation around really determining, you know, where there may be efficiencies, and looking at things a different way, and, you know, marrying that up against what the board ultimately decides. But I've appreciated this conversation, so thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, and can you please unmute Bridget?
I'm gonna stay off camera because I am at my second home, which is the Champlain Valley Expo. So sorry for the soccer in the background. I just wanted to encourage the board to try to be flexible. I understand the desire to set a hard number tonight that's a maximum, but you don't know what you don't know until you've talked to the building administrators and tried to see what they've learned so far this year about the student need and what is happening in the classrooms. Things that we funded last year may not be working this year and may need to go away. There may be a whole bunch of new kinds of need in the district that we don't know about yet. And to set a hard number tonight and then say that that's going to fund everything that we did last year just doesn't, it seems a little bit inflexible. And I would like to see a slightly more iterative process. I just want to reiterate what was said earlier in the meeting as well. That December 1 letter from the state is going to have a big impact on what any kind of budget increase means for the taxpayer. And you're going to have to be willing to be iterative and talk about that because we can't know tonight what is going to be acceptable to the taxpayer based on which of these numbers we choose, because we don't know what that's going to turn into in terms of tax rate. And I would just encourage all of you to reach out to the resources in the community. Obviously, there are some people who are very passionate and have dug into the numbers a lot. There are a lot of former board members, a lot of people who have worked in the district before, who are willing to give advice and have input that could be helpful going forward through this, what will be a very tough budgeting season. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay, and if I can, I would like to give Mr. Silverstein, there's probably gonna be some pushback, but I would like to give Mr. Silverstein the opportunity to speak again. Jerry, if you can please be cordial, that would be really appreciated.
Okay, let me just start by reminding you in last year's or the year before, a letter from the tax commissioner to the legislature. He said, spending in the public school arena is not sustainable. That's what he said. That's not my opinion. Everybody in the governor's office knows we have a spending problem. Second point I'd like to make, we're increasing spending 5% this year. Someone did mention, and I want to reemphasize it, the Essex Westward School District, the superintendent presented a level funded budget, and he said, this demonstrates a strong commitment to financial responsibility. The Champlain Valley School District had a budget increase of 0.9% versus the 5% we had. We have a ratio of pupils to total employees of 5-to-1 versus a national average of 7.45-to-1. Seamus likes to remind us that Vermont is a rural community, but South Burlington is not a rural community. We spend close to $30,000 per student. That's twice as much as 16 other states. And if you look closely at those other states, if you look at national testing, many of those states do better than we do on learning proficiency outcomes. Moreover, over the last decade, frightening as it is, the more we've spent in Vermont, the worse the learning outcomes. The take-home message for this is just spending more money, which seems like it would improve learning. The data does not support that hypothesis. The data for the last decade has shown we've spent more money, more positions, fewer students, and we've had, more employees, more students, fewer employees, more money, but lower proficiency outcomes. So there's a lot of data out there, and I have discovered something which is frightening to me in the community of South Burlington. When people don't like hard, objective truths, data, they don't like it, they say it's irrelevant, it doesn't matter, we have to do it for the children. The truth is you're not doing it for the children. I'm sorry, the learning outcomes, the hard learning outcomes on in-state and national exams show that learning in Vermont, in South Burlington, is not nearly as good as neighboring states of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And I'll end with one point. In Massachusetts, the number of students who are classified as IDEA students, individuals with disabilities, is 20% versus statewide in Vermont, it's 18%, and according to the Agency of Education in South Burlington, it's 15%. So if you're going to say we have students with greater needs, I want to tell you the data does not support that hypothesis. There's a lot of data out there, and people don't like to look at that data because it calls into question some of the spending and some of the learning outcomes. The longer you ignore spending out of balance without learning outcomes, the bigger the hole you're going to be digging for yourself. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I
Yes.
have one very quick comment?
Yes.
So I haven't made a comment yet about the budget, so I think, I would certainly support a budget that maintains what we have and potentially, whatever, the inflation rate or, higher. And to speak to our learner outcomes, the student in the classroom today is very different than the student in the classroom 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And teachers don't have necessarily all of the tools in the toolbox to teach the students they have in their classrooms. And the learner prep programs, meaning higher ed, hasn't yet changed how they teach students to teach, in the classroom. And so when we think about, we need to set our budget, right? We need a number, and you need to do that tonight. But I would implore us to think about, how are we going to change the systems that we have in place to support our teachers and to support the students, because our status quo isn't working. If our student outcomes are not changing, you know, if we have students struggling to read, students struggling in math, then what we're doing isn't working. And so we need to change. And so we're being maybe inefficient, or maybe the teachers don't have the things they need to support the current learner. We can't change what UVM teaches. We can't change what Champlain College teaches, or what, you know, that needs to go to the Department of Ed. And that needs to go to a different, you know, that's another level. But what we can do is ask our teachers, what do you need? Where are you struggling? And what can we do to help you? You know, we have a coaching system, right? We have math coaches and literacy coaches, but what are they doing? And are they helping our students? You know, and I'm not saying we need to cut the coaches, and this is in no way saying that they're not doing a good job, but are they doing what's necessary to help our teachers and to help our students? And so I, you know, support a budget that I think Samantha had a great point, put together a budget that is going to be passed, that isn't astronomical, but that is reasonable. And then present changes and proposals that are meaningful, and that isn't just our status quo. Don't come back with like, here's our budget and we're just gonna move forward, you know, and be transparent and tell us what changes you're going to make and what will look different, so that we are using the money in a meaningful way, because people want our money to look different. What is going to happen with the money that we're giving? And, you know, I feel for the teachers in the classroom, and it's not an easy, you know, I can't imagine it's an easy place to be. And so I want them to feel supported and for that money to be used in a good way.
Thank you. People like Jerry and many others, one of the things is just throwing money. And I'm not saying you're saying this,
Yeah.
but just continue to outpace inflation and throw money at what some people see as a problem, because the budgets are increasing, but the outcome is not what we want. Is not the answer to just keep throwing money at things. And these are two different things. You'll get a budget and then you've got to work with that budget.
Right.
And what you're saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, is that things aren't working, or some things aren't working, and there need to be changes. And I agree with that. But that has to be done within the budget that's passed, and we can't just keep outpacing inflation, because quite frankly, it'll cost us. You can't keep outpacing inflation, because the people, like Jerry said, people in Social Security, they're not seeing these raises. People in the private sector are not seeing these raises.
Yeah.
And they're your bread and butter.
But yeah, I think we're all saying the same
Yeah, I
thing.
mean, I'm not
When it all comes
suggesting
down
we
to
go
it. Yeah.
that
Yeah,
next
yeah,
level,
yeah.
yeah. But I'm also not saying, you know, that, you know, cutting 33 positions is gonna result, I don't, that I think is going to be an outcry, right? I mean, that would be disastrous on so many levels. right?
Well, yeah, when Jerry, I could really understand what he was saying this last time. He said it in very, a way that was easy to understand and hear and take in. And I don't think he's saying, just spend less money and we'll have great outcomes. I think what he's saying is spend money in the right places, which is what you're saying. I don't think his answer is take the budget down to nothing and then everything will be fixed. Cause I don't think anyone thinks that's gonna happen. But everything we've heard tonight is about putting money in the right places, which unfortunately is not our job. We just pick the number,
Right.
but it's I think Dr. Clark and what everyone has said tonight is leading towards that same thing. And we're all in agreement on that point.
Do we have to choose this tonight? Because no, I'm serious. This is my fourth time through this. And I sit here without the information that I need. So I haven't heard from building administrators. I mean, we don't know what this December 1st tax letter is gonna be. I don't see why this makes any sense to do this tonight.
Can I respond to that when you're talking about?
Yes, go ahead, Seamus.
No, but please, continue and I just wanna, sorry, I
No,
shouldn't have.
I'm done.
I think as a voter, as a taxpayer, I am confused when all of these different deadlines and dates get thrown around. And then when you add into the mix all of the concerns about what this building needs, you know, what different parts of the budget need, I think that it can very rapidly turn into like a house of mirrors almost. And so I think our job here, again, as the elected representative of the voter, is to say what tax burden are we willing to support? And then within that box, the building administrators can get, you know, what they need.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the Descent business model points out, doesn't
Yeah,
it
but
also?
these percentages are gonna change. That's the thing, like you can say, like you're gonna vote for like a 5 to 6% midway between inflation and no cuts. Well, then what happens on December 1st when we get the tax letter? Is that doesn't hold?
It means that the operations decisions have to manage within that.
Yeah, and so I would, okay, yeah, I understand that, but I would actually rather know what the numbers are gonna be. I'm probably gonna
My
abstain.
other question is, what if we
So-
don't agree?
Yeah, I'm gonna abstain from this one because I'm.
Right? I mean,
But even
as we give our input, we all probably have slightly different takes. Some of us have the same take, but we take a vote.
Yeah,
And
I don't
that's-
know if there's a percentage of votes, like, do, you know, 4 of us need
Yeah,
to
you
come
do.
down on the same
Four.
number?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, make a
So what
motion
if that
on a
doesn't-
number.
It would be a
and it
simple
passes.
majority.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, all right, so with that, I would say the next item on our agenda is an action item. And so I think that at this point, you know, I would entertain a motion to choose the appropriate budget option. I mean, to go through and see kind of maybe perhaps where we are right now. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I don't even want to make a motion yet, I think that's premature, but let's go and see where we stand
Just wanna
with that.
discuss,
We're
like,
moving,
what
we're moving
we're
on to
each
the next
thinking.
item, so this is. just
Yeah,
the
we're
board,
going on
right?
to the next item.
Just
I
us,
think
yeah.
that's what we're saying. So the seven of us.
Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
does Jean Marie need to say?
I just wanted to say to Laura's point that the one thing that we heard time and time again when we worked with Toussaint to gather all this community feedback was that by the time the community had an opportunity to weigh in on our budget, it was all said and done. That, so the reason why we're doing all of this that feels so uncomfortable to so many of us is because we're trying to build a budget earlier to give you folks an opportunity to solicit that feedback.
well, no, the feedback, yeah, I understand.
So that like, and the other thing too, like to your point, is that the budget is it's like a living organism. And things make it change all the time. So like
Right.
you giving us, so I can't tell you it's gonna be exactly 75 million, like it might be 74.9, like it might be 75.1, like, you know, it changes all the time. You know, a new student moves into town and there's a different set of needs
Yeah.
and that blows things up. Students move out and those needs go away and we see a reduction, right? So it is ever living and ever changing, but so I would urge you to try to come around to some kind of guidance that we can use to
Start
continue
working.
with the process.
Okay,
We're already
Right, it's
feeling
just
really.
really
amazing.
uncomfortable
Yeah.
operating without all the information that I need. And this is the 4th time I've done it and I don't like it.
But I think that's.
And I'm really,
Isn't
It
fair to
just
say
doesn't
that
really-
This actually gives more time, just a little bit more space for decision makers within operations to be thoughtful in the ways that folks have been talking about here that are so important.
I would like guidance so we can start having discussions with the caveat that December 1st comes, we get a letter, or when we report back to the board about this is what the logistics of this budget are gonna look like, that you can always change it, right? I think January is when you have to put the exact number on the ballot, but I would like to at least be able to start conceptualizing whether are we making reductions or not, and if so, to what extent, so we can start doing that. And I can tell you, no matter what number you choose, we are going to continue to look for ways to be more efficient and get rid of things we don't need and do what we can to bring back things that help
our kids, and we're gonna involve our principals and their teams and all that. So, and again, I know I've been here a month, there's gonna be a request to give a little trust on our ability to do that, but I would love a little guidance so we can start that work.
I think it is important though to
And-
understand what you're saying. I don't want the taxpayers to think that we decided tonight it's 3% and that's it. It's never going any higher than that. It's never going any lower than that. Cause that is a transparency thing that I'd like to make sure is understood. This is a goal that we're setting, but it's not the number you are definitely going to see in those talks in the upcoming months.
And maybe what we could do also is, this is a great conversation. I really appreciate everybody that weighed in and provided their comments. And I especially appreciated Mr. Silverstein coming back and being so cordial. Because I think he really does have some really good information to share. That said, we have a community forum coming up on December 3rd. And so we're going to have another opportunity to get together and to talk again. And so perhaps we take a straw poll vote and we see where we all stand right now. We provide you that information. You can start doing your crunching of numbers. And then let's see where things shake out December 1st. And then perhaps that can be weighed into the decision on December 3rd. How does
So
that?
we call it the December 1st letter, but Tim,
Oh,
it doesn't arrive on.
okay.
It doesn't arrive on. Okay.
Jen.
November 30th.
Yeah. Sorry, Seamus, go ahead. What?
Yeah, I think that that's a good idea, that what the superintendent has expressed to us is that he and his team need clarity in order to
Yes.
put together the best possible budget. And I think that, if it's, if it's okay with you, I would make a motion that the board select the inflation number of 3.4% to use as the budget target for the budget.
Well, the one thing I would like to ask, because Jerry did bring up the 3%, and I looked it up and I looked at the Northeast region as 3.3. So can you speak real quick to where the 3.4 came from?
Yeah, the board gave us that number at the meeting, based
Oh.
on what the city had.
That's what
Oh.
the city used.
Is that-
Inflation also rolling, so it can.
It can, yeah, okay, but that was the number,
Yeah, that-
or the city was 3.4, so that's where it came from, that alignment, but it does go back to the Northeast region versus the national average.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, Seamus, go ahead, please, go
I think
ahead.
that the Northeast region, the 3.3% was actually including foodstuffs, and the 3.4 was exclusive of foodstuffs. I believe.
Okay. Okay. So I will now entertain a motion for the board to select the 3.4% level with inflation budget option as presented to the district to create the 2026-2027 budget. I actually do think that is appropriate. Do we have anyone that would be? so
I
willing
moved.
to Move, Seamus? Is it seconded by anyone?
Second.
By Dan? By Dan, to accept that, was it 3.4%?
And I think this is the point, Jen, where you said we were gonna do public comment.
Yes, and so, yeah, so because actually that was a comment that came up last week, I think Elizabeth had pointed that out. So now that we have spoken to this, if anyone would like to provide any comment on that, that would be great from the public. Yes,
Can I make a suggestion here?
yes.
I'm listening to your struggle with setting a number and how you're gonna deal with changes. In my opinion, if there is recognition that you have opportunities for efficiency in your current system, and if you're willing to work on it, and if you're, $18 million, right? I pointed out $18 million has gone up in a significant fashion over the last 6 years. You take the baseline number, it's for 3.6% or 3.4%. And then you identify efficiency improvement on top of that. And that is your lower bound. What I mean by that is, if you identify $1 million out of the $18 million that has gone up over the last 6 years in the non-professional, non-personal costs,
I'm just giving you an example. That $1 million out of $71 million is roughly 1.4%. So your lower bound would be 2%. And that's what people refer to as a stretch budget. Where you're shooting for 3.4, but you are going to make the effort to get to the lower bound. This is one way of managing a range. The amount of effort you're going to put to identify 3.4% is going to be no different than the amount of effort to identify the 2. It is a matter of identifying where the reductions are going to come from, where you're going to get the efficiency. So it's a little bit of work.
A lot of work.
Well, when I say a little bit of work,
Well,
with the right skills,
no,
right?
yeah, but I'm not afraid of work, and also you just have to trust, I know, I've only been here 2 months, you have to trust me. I'm not going to stop and say, oh, yeah, we're wasting this money, but the board said we could spend it, so we're just gonna keep spending. I'm not going to do that. We are going to find whatever efficiencies we can. And if that saves us more than that, we're gonna do it.
I understand that. All I'm proposing is it provides us, it puts a stake in the ground. And it allows the district and community to engage, to see where the opportunities are. So I think there'll be a lot more credibility in the community. If you take that approach versus a fixed number, that's just my opinion. So I'll rest with that.
We will look at everything. I don't know how else I can attest to that.
Right.
We will look at everything.
I do want a point of order. I think that, and Sri Ram, I really appreciate the quantitative expertise you brought to this discussion. I do think that during the public comment section of an action item, we're not responding to.
Oh, okay, good point.
About that.
Good point. All
Sorry.
right, Tim Jarvis has a comment.
I think that the part of this is a nomenclature problem for us, that identifying a number as representing Northeast CPU as of August is not really the right way to go. I think that you pick a number or a percentage, but you don't say this represents inflation, right? Because those were August numbers, it changed every month, and Jerry's point is valid that you'll have different data sources saying inflation is something else, but the other thing that I would comment is, and I have a lot of very torn emotions about this whole topic. I mean, I lived through hell in this over the last 3 years. And I also have 2 kids who are sophomores in high school. And I know that the challenge that Joe and his team are about to embark upon to divvy up whatever number you agree upon between the schools and non-school expenses is going to be tremendous. Right? I also think, though, it's easier in some respects to add money once you find out what all the factors are, as opposed to taking it away. I mean, the challenges that we went through last year and the year before, when we got the state factors, which were horrendous. And then we had to go back to the well and say, hey, you gave us 5 heads, now you need another 10, now you need another 15. I mean, it just, that whole thing was awful. It was demoralizing to the staff, it was demoralizing to teachers, it was demoralizing to the community. So if you pick a reasonable number and don't call it inflation, I think there's like I said, I agree, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of expense savings that are non-personnel related. You get 250,000 right off the bat because you're not going to put money into the capital reserve fund like we did last year. But don't call it inflation, call it, I think that's what, call it a percentage, and then work from there.
Well, and if it happens to align with inflation, because I think to me that, oh, sorry. Sorry. Good point, though. All right, is there any other discussion or, I'm sorry, it's not discussion. Are there any other comments to this?
Can I see slide again, Dr. Clark, with the percentages?
Here. It's
And there is one comment online, Jen.
Okay. Can't see who's online. That's, oh, Bill Sarks. Yes, could you please unmute Mr. Sarks?
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Great, thanks. I just want to reiterate the point that I made earlier in the night, now that there's actually a motion on the floor that has been seconded and we're having discussion on it. I'd actually like to urge you all to vote no on this motion and entertain a new motion to use the 6% number. At this stage in the game, there are so many variables and so much information that's not been introduced in the conversation that there's really just no reason to not use that as a starting point. And then if it has to change from there, then so be it. Just food for thought. I'd also like to say that it's worth a look at historical budget numbers and how they've correlated to tax increases over the last, I don't know, 10 to 15 years. And there have been years that the budget's gone up and taxes have gone down, and there's been years that the budget's gone had a negative or had a decrease and the tax rate went up. And there's just so many moving parts and so many variables. And the last couple of years, every factor that's part of the equation of calculating the tax rate has worked against the community of South Burlington, but it seems like some of that pressure may be starting to ease. So I really agree with what Laura was saying earlier. There's just a lot of information that has not been part of the conversation yet. And there are a lot of factors to consider that we don't have access to just yet. This feels premature. Thank you.
Are there any other comments?
I just have another
think-
question.
Okay, yes.
So Seamus is proposing so you're voting on the 3 to 4% increase, which is,
3.4%.
28.4, which would be a $74 million budget.
well, that's not on here. The options on the agenda are 3 to 4% increase, 6 to 7% increase, and
Yeah.
5 to 6.
I think the agenda includes ranges, but the
Okay.
percentages that
Exactly.
were shared earlier were 0, 3, 3.4, and 6.
Right. And on the agenda, it says other, in case the board decided to go with a different number.
But they were ranges.
Yeah, they were ranges on the agenda.
Okay.
You know, if I, I think colleagues, if you don't mind my just putting in another couple words, I think that there's this concept that we don't have all the information, but I think that the information that we need to act on, I would suggest as elected representatives, is what we've heard from our constituents about their ability to pay. And I have not spoken to every person in South Burlington, far from it. I have a very small sample set, but almost everybody that I've heard from says hold the line at inflation, and we'll figure it out within that number. And I think that, all of these other things that could happen down the line, the CLA number, all these confusing numbers that might come down from the state. At the end of the day, if we don't hold the line, then our budget is going to grow much faster than inflation, as it has done for quite some time. And to go back to something that somebody said earlier, we're also building the community of the future for our kids. It's what we leave for them is also the school budget, that they will hopefully bring their kids into. And so I think that it's important that going above inflation be the exception and not the rule.
Can I say something? We're allowed to do board discussion right now, right?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Seamus, and what I'm concerned about is the missed opportunities if we don't go above inflation because Dr. Clark has already expressed many times that he and his team are determined to find where we can save money. And if we stop them at inflation, then there are opportunities that were above that. Give them the opportunity to get down to inflation from 6% instead of getting down to 1% from inflation. And that could save teachers, that could save opportunities for students. I don't agree with the inflation. I think it's putting the ceiling too low and the opportunity too low, and not giving Dr. Clark and the team the ability to be able to bring things back for our kids and do the best for our kids and reduce that 6% if that is what we can do. But if we just cap them, then we won't know what we're missing out on. And that makes me very nervous. I don't agree with 3.4, and I won't be voting for that. So.
Yeah. I feel like we moved really quickly from Laura saying that we don't have enough information to let's take a straw poll vote to let's vote on 3.4. And I guess for me, I feel I wouldn't have enough information to vote on anything. I'd probably abstain if it went to that. But I kind of agree with what you're saying. We'll never know what we could have gotten if we don't ask. And if we were talking about, it's the exact term you used, but like, we set it at 3% and let them try and get 2%. If we set it at 3.4% or 3.4% inflation, right? Set at inflation, then there's so many people and so many programs or whatever that can be cut that don't need to be cut. So if we can set it at a higher number and give you, I guess, more room to work with while cutting less people would be ideal. And I from what I understood from the presentations and things that were presented earlier tonight is that we were expecting a much higher number than 6% to be our highest and 3% to be our middle. So the community was already expecting, the board was already expecting a higher number. I don't get why we wouldn't go with 6% and try and shoot for that. That makes sense.
From a student perspective, I also think that just going for the 3.4% is setting a ceiling for us. And from like being in our schools on a daily basis, I think the 16 fewer teachers, even though teachers is a broad term, I think that would have a really drastic impact on our schools. And if we're telling Dr. Clark to not even look into what we could give as a budget to our voters, I think it's just not responsible of us. And I haven't heard enough from the public that they wouldn't want to pay a tax rate of that yet. So I would also say that I would say no to the vote, even though it does not count towards your guys' final decision.
I
See, I guess,
think
go ahead, Seamus, and then Dan had his hand raised.
I just think that the long-term health of the schools, at least as long as Vermont keeps making people vote every year on school budget, the long-term legitimacy of the schools depends on us getting budget spending under control. And if we, on a year like this year, where again, there's no special program that we're, going after, if on a year like this year, we go above inflation, it's death by 1,000 cuts. It means that for the rest of time, we're going to be fighting school budgets and maybe squeaking by with 60 votes or something like that. And so I think that if you look at the medium and the long term, it is to the district's benefit to control spending. I certainly know that at my private company, at other private companies across the country, this has been a time of cost cutting. And we will be rewarded for sustainability and fiscal responsibility by the voters.
Seamus, can I respond to that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Seamus, in the spirit of that, why not take that same logic and start with 3%, operating under the principle that it is easier to add than it is to subtract. Right, it is easier to add programs after Dr. Clark and the central office have found as many efficiencies as they can than it is to ask them to cut programs that we were expecting on funding, right? If the number comes in too high.
Yeah.
Believe me, I would love to fund this 10% a year to infinity, but
I agree that we need to get spending under control. Inflation is a good measure. I think better is if we can come in slightly below it and really ask Dr. Clark in the central office to work very hard to find as many efficiencies and savings as they can. And then we can add from there. And given the uncertainty that we have with the CLA and all of the other things that have been mentioned today, why not start with the most conservative number, given the uncertainty, then disappoint people by saying, we thought we could do this, but we actually can't. Because when we have these other factors, it's gonna result in a number that the taxpayers won't pass, right? We might only be putting in 3.4, but when all these other factors come in, the taxpayers might get to a number they can't digest. We
But
could at
what-
least, we tried to come in under inflation a little bit.
I appreciate that, but I think the number that goes on the ballot is the amount of the budget increase. Like, I don't think the tax rate is the thing that's on the ballot. And so I think it's,
But we could, I'm saying we could show the voters that we are representing their best interest by trying to at least come in slightly under inflation. That we worked hard to be good stewards of their capital.
I only want to say one other, and I apologize because I know other people have not spoken. Clarity is important. If what we say here is, well, it's a soft number, you know, oh, we're going to go with 3.4%, but it could, maybe we'll add more later. Or on the other hand, if we say, oh, get 6%, but actually maybe in the future, if you can find a lower number, we'll go with that. It hurts the process, because if you don't have clarity, then you don't know what you're shooting for. And if we give 6%, we're not going to get it back. And I mean that in the best possible way. I just mean that, like, if I were in operations designing a budget and I was offered 6%, I would take the 6%. So I think clarity is very important. And if you think, Austin, that we should be going for a less than inflation, I think that is unreasonable given the healthcare increases that have been hitting the state recently. But yeah, I think clarity is very important to get a good budget.
All right, Dan, did you have something to
Let this woman speak.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah.
I just, to Emily's point about we're kind of from taking what you said, that I feel like we're sort of in a time of repair. And I feel like in my opinion, we should shoot a little higher, at least to the 5 to 6%, to get us back to a place where we can then maybe come down and level off. Like, I think looking at additional cuts before really diving into what's happening here and how we can do the best thing for these kids is not a good choice. And I do trust the administration to look at the budget like with a fine tooth comb and make every cut that, you know, is possible that won't affect this stuff. So I do think it's kind of, I don't know, it does not feel good to go with this 3% number, but.
Thanks. Stan, did you have a comment?
Yeah, the people that I've spoken with in the city, they want to see things more in line with inflation. So I would go with the 3 or the 3.4, they're close enough. And from personal experience and a lot of personal experience, I have never met a government entity at any level that has been offered money, say 6%, and didn't spend that 6%. I'm not saying savings can't be found, but if this district is given a 6% raise, they are going to spend that 6% somewhere along the lines. And the budgets have consistently outpaced inflation. It's not sustainable. We need to get somewhere that 3.4%, in my opinion.
And I completely agree. I mean, I feel like I'm, you know, definitely a parent, very vested interest in education. And I feel like it is incumbent upon the administration to find the efficiencies, because I know that those efficiencies have to be there. And there has to be better stewardship for the monies that are provided. I mean, that's how it is. It's like if you have a tub, it's gonna fill up, we're gonna give you like, let's work with what we've got. Sure, there's a better saying in there somewhere, but that's my point. And, and I do think that, Seamus, I agree that, we have to have the clarity with this budget. We can't be wishy-washy. But let's see where we go. And I would love to see things added back in, and I think it's gonna be really important to hear that during the conversation next week. Again, to remind everybody, November 18th at, what time you said, so 6:00 PM, 7:00 PM. For people to call in and to hear that.
And would you clarify what you just said about stuff being added back in? Do you mean enough efficiencies being found that even within the budget number we set tonight, they could put back some programs that were lost last year?
I would hope so. I would really hope so. I mean, I'm hoping that that is the case. That we may be able to see that, with it, that, you sharpen the pencils and you start looking at things with a fresh set of eyes and seeing where, why are some of these numbers so inflated in some areas and why have these been going up? And we don't have the capital expenditures perhaps that we've been looking at. So where are there opportunities, structural improvements that we can capture and deliver that back to the stakeholders and say, yeah, we've stayed flat, or not flat, but we're, tracking with inflation and we're able to deliver these kind of, enhancements to our programming that we haven't done before.
I think it's completely unreasonable to expect that they can bring things back at 3.4. If we're already cutting 15 teachers, I'm not saying that maybe we won't have to cut that many, but I'm saying there's no way we're bringing anything back. That's all I'm saying. So I would not expect Dr. Clark to be able to do that.
I think we can. I think we can, and I'll tell you why, because I've heard from lots of principals, who have said that the cuts that they made last year were not of their choice. That they had ways of making other reductions to keep the things that they wanted. I think that was taken out of their hands. And the intention this year is for principals to have the ability to make those values on what they would like to have, what programming they'd like in their buildings, and to find a way to support that. That's what I've heard them say.
Yeah.
Also, I've in my short time here have seen places where I think that we can make reductions that will not impact the classroom. They just won't. I think that we are not as lean as we could be in student focused or student facing positions, in my view.
Thanks for sharing that. It's shocking to me, but I appreciate your determination and your enthusiasm to get it done.
And I would love to give you that opportunity to see where we can tighten the belt on things, right? So, okay, is there, yes, go ahead, Moment.
So I'm a little confused because earlier we were saying that this budget number will take it, but it's not final, we can change it until January. And then 10 minutes later, we're saying that.
I can clarify, Moment.
Right, and then, now that's one thing. Second of all, we said that it was easier to add things back and subtract things, right? So we should go with a lower number, but I feel like if I was in the shoes of an educator and I was told either, oh, I'm sorry, we tried to get you in the budget, but we couldn't, it got turned down. Or if I was told, we didn't try, you're out the budget, I would rather them try and make it work. And then third of all, I don't feel like we can use anecdotal evidence to justify reasoning, because unless you have a really good sampling method and you talk to a lot of people, that doesn't really mean a whole lot. And I don't know, I feel like an inflation rate doesn't accurately justify with what's going on in school. I know, like I suggested, we can't use anecdotal evidence, but
Yeah, can I respond to that, Jen?
Yes, please, Seamus, respond.
So the final budget that we'll pick in January is where the staff, the superintendent has prepared a budget packet, right? And where we can, look through all of it and approve it, right? So that's the final budget that we approve in January later on. The number that we're picking tonight is a hard ceiling so that they can design that budget in the first place, right? And and I think that, you make good points about the climate in the schools, about how teachers are going to feel. And I think that the point that I was trying to make is around how over the long run, it's going to be easier for teachers and students if there is strong community support that we can earn through sustainable budgeting. But if we continue to have a budget that's passed by a bare fraction, 50 votes, 60 votes, that kind of uncertainty is very damaging and I think unfair.
I agree.
Okay, just to make sure I understand, you're saying that it would be better to pick an inflationary number so that in the long run, we won't have to worry about this as much, we won't have to worry about the vote as much because people be more on board. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think there are times when this community has invested in our schools heavily, and we've had great results. Like Jen was saying, she moved to this community because we had the best schools, right? So this community has invested in our schools and will do so again, right? The question is whether this is a year where we need to ask people to really step up beyond inflation. And the sense that I get is that it's not a year where we need to really ask for a real commitment from the community.
And can I just add in too, Seamus, I think it's really important to highlight what Dr. Clark said, which is that we have some efficiencies that we can capture. And that we need to put the power into our schools' hands to say, hey, let's evaluate where we are and, reconsider what has been lost. And what student-facing positions and opportunities have been lost, and we may be able to restore that. And I think we've got to give them the opportunity to do that. And I think to me, sticking with the 3.4, which is consistent with what city council is doing, is really the appropriate way to go right now. I think anything more than that is a disservice to our constituents, our taxpayers. I think we really need to kind of toe the line and stick to inflation because it really has not been sustainable as a taxpayer in this community.
I just want to also point out that it was said that the city budget is incredibly different than the school budget. And
Yep.
comparing the two is just
Totally
like
different.
not something that
Yeah.
you can even
Very
try to do. So I understand what you're saying and I hear that, but I also
Mhm.
think it doesn't necessarily line up. The words line up, but the meaning's not the
Right,
same.
right. Now, that's a good point, true. Thank you. Okay, so it had been moved by Seamus and seconded by Dan to accept the 3.4% budget option. We've heard from members of the public, we've heard from the board that has spoken to this. Is there any other discussion related to this topic? Okay, I haven't looked online for a bit.
No, I think we're good. I think we're good.
All right, yep, so hearing none, all those in favor of the 3.4% option, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, I said aye.
Aye, so we've got one,
Aye.
two,
Shake.
Seamus is three, I would actually vote aye also, so that would be, I don't know if I have to do that right now.
Let's just do a roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote. Okay, so we have Seamus. is
Aye.
Yep. Michelle is aye. Dan is aye, and Jen would be aye. And so I would just, those things, nay.
Emily's a no.
Emily is a no.
No.
Austin is a no. Laura
No.
is abstaining, or no, sorry, you know. And then, Ally Loomis.
I'm a no.
Ally is a no. And Lumen is a no, okay. All right, so I believe if we're looking for a simple majority, we have it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there any further business that we need to discuss?
Just adjourn.
Okay, all right, there being no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn it.
Laura moves to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second? Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 8:48.
This is a.
And our next meeting is next.